All right, so this video might be a little controversial, but we need to address drive-by-5. Drive-by-5 is the name we've given to a way of providing 5-MeO-DMT, which we just really feel like is not the right way to access this medicine. All right, this video might be a little bit controversial, but I do want to speak about this thing that's happening a lot, and we call it drive-by-5. What we mean by drive-by-5 is when you go to a facilitator or a practitioner and you have a 2 or 3 hour session where you smoke the strongest psychedelic on the planet, and then you leave their place and you go home, or you get on your phone and you call an Uber and you go home, or however you do that. And so just think about that for a sec. Think about basically just having a normal morning, going to someone's place, and then having the most intense psychedelic experience that's available on the planet, and then suddenly having to go back home an hour later. This is a really challenging and, really in general, just not a very useful way to access this medicine. I think for some people it's actually a very high-risk way to access this medicine, and we hear from people who are having a really challenging time because they weren't given the proper preparation, they didn't have the proper integration support, the experience was just so intense and so fast, they didn't really have a chance to get to know their facilitator, so that trust hadn't really been established. And this is really one of the most common ways that people are accessing 5-MeO-DMT. And so I think the point of this video is just to say that if you're considering working with this medicine, especially if it's your first time, I highly recommend you invest the time and the money to find a place where you can go for a couple of days at least, and you have facilitators that are very experienced, that have some preparation for you, some proper integration support for you, so that you can make the most of this experience. I'll give one example. We talked to a woman who basically worked worked for the first half of the day, and then took the afternoon off. And at 1, they were at this facilitator's house. They had this super intense experience. It actually brought up a whole bunch of repressed trauma that this person wasn't aware of. And then an hour later, they're out on the street trying to find an Uber. Of course, they're on their phone, so then they're checking their work email and checking back in with things. Meanwhile, they've just had this really intense, disruptive experience. This person went on to have a very challenging integration that lasted months, and it really was a very, I would just say, an unsuccessful experience. So that's just one. Another one that's not necessarily so detrimental is just somebody came to us and they said, yeah, I experienced 5, but right after that experience, I came out, I was in an Uber, and then I was home making dinner for the kids and keeping track of 3 toddlers. And they had no time to integrate the experience. And so it's just really a choice, but I think if you just consider the statement, this is the most powerful psychedelic on the planet, and just really take that in, and then really consider what is the proper container to have that experience in. So I'll just leave it there for today.